So when I got this piece printed, the problem with this was the connection between the ball joint and the arm, and these two pieces have to be connected somehow. So originally I had plans to just use clay, basically magic sculpt, to connect these two pieces together so that it can just be one solid arm, but that was a little bit of a challenge because if I add clay onto this arm, it's already big as it is, so if I add any more clay, it's just going to be a little bit more bulky, and it's already like at a preferred size, so I can't really do that. And so that's why I ended up designing this one, and I also made like the tubing really slim so that I can have room to actually make like the muscles and stuff like that. The other thing was the head. I wanted to design something for the inside of the head. So right now I'm using these tops here. So basically this water bottle I found, and I just took the top off. I just looked at it and I was like, wait, this can be used for sculpting a head, because if you look at it from the front, this sort of area right here is like a jawline, right? This is kind of like on this area is where your ear goes. So I decided to use this to sculpt the head, and this is basically what I got out of it, but there was a lot of drilling involved. So before I even started, I had to drill 2 holes here, and I needed to add some magic sculpt on top because it's very flat. I used these beads for the eyes, and then after that I just started grinding them away with a Dremel. One of them actually came out really easy with some pliers. This one did not want to come out, so I just had to sand it down, and that's how I ended up getting like the space all the way through. And on this side, actually on the inside, is where I use magic sculpt, so I can attach the head onto here. So, and this was all done by hand. So right inside of this area is where I made a hole, and then I started grinding away, and then I made the piece so that it would connect to the neck. So here you can see where it connects. And then on this piece here, usually it's just an S hook for regular ball jointed dolls, but since this one's handmade, I didn't want to damage it while I was working on it, so I added this extra piece here that I just made by hand between the S hook and the actual neck piece, so that I wouldn't damage it or wouldn't put too much pressure on it. And so that's basically where it's pulling from, and I'm just doing it this way for now so that I can test string it, and that's really it. So it was a lot of work to actually make sure that the eyes were hollow, because I had to sand a lot of it down. But now I got that done, so that was probably like the hardest part of it all. I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do with it. I know I can sculpt the back of the head all I want, but I want to make sure that it's round. So that's another reason why I wanted to design a skull head, something like this in 3D coat, so that I can just sculpt on top with something like Chop on NSP. I might end up using like monster clay, but I'm not sure. I already have these, and these are pretty good. You just heat them up, and they're really strong, but also they get soft with heat. I'll probably design this in 3D coat, and then I'll get it 3D printed and sent to me. But I have to do some measurements and then make sure that the head is round, and it comes with a head cap. So, but this is good because since I already have one made by hand, I can really experiment with this. And so that was my idea, that I would just make the heads out of these pieces. So I'm still doing that. And for now, I didn't. I kind of stopped from sculpting too much details on this, because if I keep sculpting on this, it's just aesthetics. So I want it to actually work as a ball jointed doll. So I kind of stopped myself from going any further so that I can focus on the joints. And that was one of the biggest things that I learned with making ball jointed dolls, that at first it was just like, can I sculpt? And it was just all about sculpting, but I completely forgot all about the engineering part, that these actually have to work in order for it to function as a ball jointed doll. So that's why I started using these PVC pipes, and I find that they work really well, especially with Magic Sculpt, because at first I was just wondering like how am I gonna do this, since clay doesn't really, I mean, clay works great with aluminum foil underneath and if you create an armature, but the problem with that is that it has to be hollow on the inside for the elastic string. And so that was one of my problems with clay, was just trying to figure out how do I keep it hollow inside but also make it so that I can sculpt with, you know, oil-based clay. There was one more thing I wanted to mention, was sculpting this in epoxy. And the problem with this is I was sculpting in Super Sculpey, which you can see back here, and this piece here broke. And that's completely fine, I don't mind it. But this was like during the time when I was sculpting a lot with Super Sculpey, and then I found out about Magic Sculpt, and so I started using Magic Sculpt. And on top of this, and also this one had another problem with it, was that the eyes were not hollow. Magic Sculpt solved a lot of my problems because I was able to do things like this, and it came out really well. The problem with this head was because I started with Super Sculpey, I made the eyes out of Super Sculpey and I put them inside of there, and then I started sculpting my way around those. Now it's still not a big problem because I can still, technically I can still make a mold out of this, but also there's a lot of really bad details on it, like back here from where I added more Super Sculpey. So this is not a bad like first start, I think. And I also don't have any sort of designs for the head to attach, but that's fine. So that's why I started working on this head over here, because I needed something that was just working better than what I was originally working with. And of course, the other problem was trying to make more head sculpts. My next step in this project is to design something in 3D Coat, and then I can use that base and make more head sculpts. So I still like this head sculpt, but I think it could be improved a lot more. I can do better things with it. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.